Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Suzie Q Stamping 3 on Thursday. This is July 7th, 2022. I hope that all of you had a great 4th of July and stayed safe. We did. We had a great concert at our church featuring The Sound. It's a group that has a dad and his two sons. And they are awesome, awesome, awesome. And they'll be back at our church next July 4th. So, new catalog premiered in May. And I'm going to be using 2 stamp sets out of this book that Campology carried over. And Let's Set Sail carried over from the mini catalog. So we're going to be using both of those. And then because I thought, let's do some Christmas in July. So each week between now and Christmas, I'm going to be featuring one Christmas card for our 3 on Thursday. And today we're going to be using the Merriest Moments and the Merriest Moment Frames Hybrid Embossing Folder. That one's kind of a tricky embossing folder to learn how to use. So I hope that after I explain it, you'll like that just as much as I do. This is that set right here. And then I don't know if this is very clear. Hi, Cindy. How are you? So this is the embossing folder in one of the frames, but it does have dies to cut out these other little pieces. Hi, Karen. How are you today? So anyway, let's get started. The first one we're going to do is using the, oh yes, before I forget, I was just reminded, our winner for last week's cards, let me get those cards. And the winner for last week's cards is Cherie. So Cherie, these are the 3 cards that we made last week. And so you will be getting those in your surprise package at the Stamp Club next Friday night, the 15th. Okay, not surprise package. You'll just be getting them with your card kits, okay? So that was from the Splendid Day Suite. And that's a new set that is in the mini catalog. And that paper is just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. All right, so congratulations, Cherie. It's very easy to win the cards. All you have to do is leave a comment about the cards or even just saying hi, and then your name will go in the drawing to get those 3 cards. So let's pull out the stuff. Let's start with the Campology. This is a relatively easy card. I'm just getting all my supplies out of my box here. You could make this for a man. You can make it for an outdoorsy woman or a child. They make nice cards for just about anybody. So today we're going to be using some of our Stampin' Blends, our Black Memento ink, and our Smoky Slate, and then our Campology, and we're going to be using the You Brighten My Path sentiment, and the lantern, and then the tent. And this is a set, like I said, it was a carryover from last year's. You just ordered the set, Cherie? Well, congratulations on getting those 3 cards. It was a set that I got last year, and I made, I think, maybe 1 or 2 cards out of it. But I really think that this is an awesome set, and I had my assistant help me to design some cards for this week, because I was designing Christmas cards, and she was designing... Okay, Cherie, pop back in then. Hopefully your sound will be better, because everything looks okay on my end. Okay, so what we've started with is a basic card base, which is the 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at the 4 1/4. So we're going to give that a good crease there. And then we have a piece of basic black that measures, and because I didn't write these down today, 2¼ by 3½, a piece of the basic white that measures 2¼ by 3¼ a little piece of scrap black that measures 2¼ by 1¾ and this is for our greeting. This is about 5/8 of an inch by 2 inches. And then we have 2 pieces of basic white cardstock. One is going to be for our front and one for the inside, and those measure the 4 by 5¼ So let's get our stamping done. Let me pull out a piece of scratch paper. Just pulling out a piece of grid paper that I folded in half. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to stamp our lanterns all over to make our background for our card. No rhyme or reason. This is just however you want to do it. And because these are not the photopolymer, we don't necessarily need to have our stamping mat under it. So we're just going to start by stamping our lanterns all over the background, and I didn't get that one stamped real good, but it's going to be mostly covered with our outside, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. We'll come in over here and we'll stamp another one. Let's do one up there in the center that's stamped off. And even though I know that my center is going to be covered up, I still like to stamp, because in that way, if for some reason that cover up doesn't cover something, it does have a little bit of that image peeking out from underneath it. Now you could do these upside down if you want, but I've never seen a lantern upside down, so we're doing them all one direction, which is right side up. Okay, and I think that looks good, because I don't want to just put the handle down there, because that might look kind of silly. Let's clean that stamp off, and then we're going to stamp it one more time on our piece of white paper so that we can color that real quick with our blends. And I'm going to try my best to get this straight down in the center. Giving it nice pressure. There we go. So y'all been having a good week. We have been very busy working outside. I mowed the backfield yesterday and mowed the front yards today while Dorothy was busy doing some other projects. So the grass has all been cut now for this week. Maybe it won't need to be cut next week. So, okay, I'm going to stamp our You Brighten My Path on our little piece of scrap basic white. So that's done. And again, I'm not putting anything on the inside. We did put a greeting on this one because we already know who we're going to send this to. But we're going to stamp our little tent on the bottom of that inside piece of white. And that's going to be in the smoky slate. I just cleaned that too, and now I got ink all over it again. And there's so many different things that you could use with this stamp set. It does come with these trees. So you could use the masking technique to have that tent sitting in front of those trees. And I may do a video on that and just have it posted. Alright, so that's going to be our inside. So all of our stamping is done. I'll get all those inks out of the way. And we're going to quickly color our lantern. And I want to kind of give it so that it's got that soft glow to it. So I'm going to start off with my So Saffron. And I'm going to use the brush point because these do have two different ends. And they show the wide tip is for your brush and the narrow tip then is for the nub side, is what I call it. And I don't use it very often. So I'm just going to start down here at the bottom of my globe and color that in. And I'm not being real particular about it. I'm going to come in with my dark daffodil. And I'm going to give that center just a little bit more glow. And I'm going to also color down here. I love lanterns like this. They just don't like me. I'm afraid of them. I know that sounds silly, but I don't want to be. And now I'm just going to go back in with my light Daffodil Delight. And I'm going to color it around so that it just kind of gives a really soft glow on my lantern. And this is what I'm trying to get is that lantern is putting light on the rest of that. So it's just a nice, soft glow. And I'm going to come in and take my Daffodil Delight, not my Daffodil Delight, my So Saffron, wrong tip. And I'm going to just kind of blend it in and shade it where it's kind of darker. Okay? And I'm not doing anything to the top where the mantle is. That's just going to be kind of left. I did miss a spot up here, though. I know, can you believe that I'm really starting to enjoy this whole coloring thing? And I want to have some glow back behind it because it's shining at the campsite. I want to go camping so bad. I just can't get anybody else to go camping with me in 100-degree temperatures. Alright, so we're done coloring. But, well, nobody wants to go camping with me in 100-degree temperatures.
No.
They'd rather go glamping. Which, oops, this one's cut just a tad bit too wide. Let's cut that down a little bit. Don't want to lose my little bits here. Alright, so this piece is at 2 1/4. This piece needs to be at 2 inches. We want to take off from both sides so that it still can remain semi-centered. There we go. Easy fix there. So, I'm so excited for those of you that are going to be coming to my stamp class in July, the Christmas in July class. Registration for that ended yesterday. I'm going to be compiling all of the different kits that everybody wanted to choose to make and get all of our supplies ordered for that. It is going to be a fun day. So if you missed the sign up for the registration, I'm sorry, but I had to do a cutoff so that I could get the kits made up. Whoops. Not very centered, Sue. Have you ever done that? I do it. I seem to do it all the time. Oh, wait a minute. That's because I'm not wearing my glasses. Cherie, I'm not wearing my glasses. I've got to put them on. But they have little spots all over them. Okay. It would also be easier if I lined it up with my grid paper, but... Okay, so there is our lantern. Now let's do our greeting. Thank you, Cindy. I'm excited about the class, too. I think it's going to be really fun. I was a bit surprised last year everybody said that the cards were too difficult. So this year I made some simple cards and nobody chose those. And it was like, oh wow, okay. So, but hey, I love the cards that everybody chose. The next thing we're going to do is take our front that we stamped on and my Stampin' Seal Plus and stick that down. And ladies, I know a lot of you like to use the Tumbo runners and things like that, those that you can get from like Hobby Lobby and even the dollar store. But I'll tell you what, those do not stick as well as what Stampin' Up Stampin' Seal Plus does. Now, I prefer the Stampin' Up, the Stampin' Seal Plus over just the regular Stampin' Seal. To me, it's easier. It's stronger, so you can use it for almost anything. But it also, and I'm not going to try to tear that up. It's just going to be a smaller margin on this side. So we'll just have to live with that. Okay. I'm not going to adhere the center. We're just going to stick that inside there. Now we're going to take our lantern and we're going to use some of the black dimensionals. Whoops. Wrong tip. I don't need the putty. I'm glad that you liked the card designs, Cherie. I had fun designing them. I really did. It was like, wow, really thinking outside the box and what papers to use that would showcase the paper plus the stamps. And as usual, a lot of you chose a card that is not one of my favorites, but it was like, you know, everybody has their own style, and that's what makes everybody unique in stamping. Because not everybody likes to do the same type of card, or they don't like the same kind of designer series paper. So it's a nice thing to have a variety, and some people like fun and whimsical cards, where other people like to have more of the traditional Christmas cards. All right, so we're going to put this one over here on this side, because I'm going to try to cover up as much of my boo-boo over here so that it doesn't look like it's a boo-boo. So we're going to adhere that right there. And now you brighten my path. I want it to be down here. And I don't need to pop it up on both sides. We're just going to pop it up on one end. And then I'm going to use some of the Stampin' Seal Plus on the other side to adhere it to the front. And this card is almost done. And you could do this card with the tent as your background. You could do the card with the binoculars. So the possibilities are endless. Okay, so there's card number 1 today. Turned out really cute, and it's fast and easy. Sometimes you need those masculine birthday cards. Fist bump. You need those masculine cards. Quick and easy. You know, you don't want to spend a whole lot of time on men's cards, because some of them just throw them away. They don't care. All right, let's move on to our next card, which is going to be our sailboat, using the Sailboat Builder Punch and the Setting Sail Stamp Set. And we've added a extra little thing with our layering diorama dies. So how many of you have the layering diorama dies? Type a comment. Type yes if you have these. Because if you don't, you might want to think about it. You've got 8 different dies, and they layer. I'm sorry, you've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 dies. But they layer inside each other. So here's just a couple that I've cut out because I wanted one part of it. I wanted a frame like this. So then that left me a piece like this. So that's probably the largest one there is. But there's so many different things that you can do with these. So you can layer them, and you can make them look like water. You could put a sentiment on it. I've seen tons of different ways to use these layering diorama dies. So that's not using all of them, that's just using 4 of them. So we're going to use the 3rd largest one, I think, today. Let me look at my notes here. Yes, it's going to be the 3rd largest. So that is going to be this one right here that we're using. Okay, so let me put that up against the largest one, and you can see the difference in it. Okay, and you can still cut out border frames around it. Okay, get this mess picked up so that, and I've already got it pre-cut. My embossing machine is just, it's so big trying to get it under my camera. If you don't know how to use the embossing machine, please leave a comment, and I will be more than happy to do a video just doing that and showing you how to use those dies. Alright, so our card is going to look like this. So here's another type of masculine card, or it could be for a child. My little tabby got stuck there. So this is how we use the layering diorama die. We cut out the frame, and then we're going to stick it and adhere it to our card front. Okay? So there's our bits and pieces. So this piece here measures at 4 1/4 by 5, which is your normal mat size. This is the piece of white paper that's going to go underneath it, and that's 3 3/4 by 5, so that lays right on the back of that. And then our basic card base at 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. Okay, and then our inside piece. So again, we're going to do our stamping, and then I went ahead and I stamped our little flag. And this same is from the Charming Sentiments. And this is the set that has the matching dies that you can cut these all out with. But I wanted to do a flag. Okay, so I didn't. This was another card that my assistant designed for me. She had it in her head. She wanted to do a flag. She'd have it no other way. I gave her other options. No, she wanted a flag. So she used a piece of scrap white, fit that into the banner pick-a-punch to punch out her banner flag at the bottom. It is great to have somebody else to help you design cards so that I don't always have to come up with them. And she doesn't ever think that her cards are pretty, but I do. So shout out if you like these cards that my assistant made, because she thinks that none of her cards are cute or pretty. And I think they are. Okay, I grabbed everything but my stamps. So I need my water stamp, my sailboat. Alright, whoops, what happened to that? That was my boat. Gotta double check and make sure that that's on there right to fit my thing. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to be using Starry Sky. And Starry Sky is going to get stamped 3rd generation. See, everybody loves your cards and they miss you, my assistant. So this is the stamp that gives you the water effect. So we're doing 3rd generation on this, okay? Oh, here's those stamps from the first card. I don't need those. Alright, and now because this stamp is wider than what my card base is, I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. So we're going to stamp off once, twice, and we're going to stamp right in the center towards the bottom. Then we're going to go and stamp it up again. Stamp off once, twice, and we're going to move our stamp over a little bit so that we get a different effect. And we're going to overlay that. Stamp it up again. 1, 2, and now we're going to go this way. And you don't have to necessarily have it all the way at the bottom because it's not going to show. Now, I want to make sure that I have water all the way below this. And I'm missing a little bit there. So I'm going to go ahead and just ink this up a little bit more. And I'm going to stamp it off. And I'm going to stamp right down to the bottom. So that's one way you can kind of fill in if you see that you maybe started up too high, that you were going to have that showing at the bottom. So now I know that when I put that over there, there's my water. Okay? Now, on our, we're going to use Sweet Sorbet for our sailboat that is sitting on top of the water. Reach. Okay, and we're going to start by stamping the boat itself. So I'm going to place my boat here on my water so that I know right where I want to place it. I always do things cockeyed and then everything looks crooked, but it's really not. Alright, so we're going to place that to where it's kind of sitting there in the water. Stay, don't pick up to my fingers. And I'm looking for, there it is. I'm stamping the boat in crumb cake. Make sure you've got a nice coverage of ink on it, but not too much. You've got to be careful. I know what I need, ladies. This is photopolymer, so I need to have my stamp mat. You know, Cherie, my uncle, my dad's brother, he used to have a canoe that was a sailboat down here at the lake, and a couple times we went out in it. Kind of scared me to death, but I liked it just as the canoe. So there's my sailboat, and see how I rock that because I didn't pick it up good enough.
Gotta flip it over and do it again.
Yes, I get a second chance, so I can start again.
That's what I had to do.
Just didn't want to, but I will. Okay.
Right if you don't.
I know, it has to look white. So we're going to put away our crumb cake for right now. See, everybody makes mistakes, but I always figure I got a second chance with double-sided paper. But I do know that I've got some extra ink on this wave that I don't necessarily want, so we're going to clean that. And speaking of sailboats, you know, if my uncle was alive today and he still had that little sailboat, I just don't think I'd get out on this lake in it at all. Not with the big boats that are out there now. I feel like it would be taking my life in my own hands. Because they don't watch out for those little boats. No siree. Okay, stamp off once, twice, and let's stamp this. Once, twice, move it over a little bit. I love how with the Stampin' Up inks, by stamping off, you can get different colors. I think that's really a cool thing with the Stampin' Up inks, that you can get, most generally, there are some that you can't, but most generally you can get 3 different colors or shades of that one color. And I'm really liking the Starry Sky. I think it's a really pretty color. A nice blue. Alright, let's start all over again. Let me clean my boat and mast. And we'll try this again. This time I won't rock it. And I'll check my stamp to make sure I got no extra ink. Because it's a narrow little thing up there. So just in case, oh, I have a visitor in my room. My puppy Simba. He'll probably start growling and barking here in a minute because he wants to go O-U-T. If I say the word, he'll bark for sure. I still got it, but I think I'm going to be able to fix that. I'll remedy that here in a second. At least it's not as bad as it was for the first time. Alright. So now with our sweet sorbet, we are going to do
Stamp off one.
We're going to stamp it off once, and that is the small sail that's going to the right. So we're going to stamp it up. A little bit of ink there on the edge. And we're going to line this up. I'm putting my glasses on. I'm looking at a comment here from Cindy. Chuck and you went on a small one when you took the boys on a vacation to Mark Twain. You capsized you? Oh, that. And you had to drag the boat to shore after we got it upright? Yeah, those are always fun times. Oh, man. I got sweet sorbet, but it'll be covered up. But let me get a wipe to wipe my fingers off with, because evidently I got ink on my fingers. That is the problem with red ink. Have you noticed that? Red ink seems to be the one that you always seem to get on your fingers and transfer it to your paper. Alright. So I'm going to put just a tad bit more on there and then huff it. Make sure that that's nice and wet.
Stamp off.
Oh, stamp off. Glad my assistant was here. I don't know where my husband is, but he's got my microwave beeping out there. Now we're going to put this kind of right under that tip on our sailboat and touching the bottom. Hopefully we can get this straight. There we go. Not too bad. Okay. Still got that little piece of brown up at the top, but we're going to make that look like an extra piece of the flag. We are making BLTs tonight for supper. It's one of my favorite summertime meals. I love BLTs. So what are you all fixing tonight for supper? I like fast and easy in the summertime, especially when I've been outside working. I don't want to cook, which we haven't this week because we've been outside working. So, oh yes, Cindy McGee, what about the mango melody? That made a mess for you, didn't it? Alright, let's see how well we can do this sail. And we're going to, you know, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it up to cover up that, no, I'm not. We're going to leave it like it's supposed to be and do something else for up there. Let's get it a little bit closer. Now, you might think, oh, that's a hard set. It is, but it's not. And I mean, it's not perfect. It's not right up to the top. But you know what? It's a handmade card. So if people want to get that particular, then, gee, they need to go to Hallmark and pay $5 for a card. Because as we all know, not very many people will buy a $5 homemade card. Alright, let's put this sweet sorbet away before it makes a mess on my cards. Throw that nasty thing away and get a clean one out so I can wipe my fingers off. So I don't know. We don't fry our bacon anymore. We bake it in the oven, and we like it a lot better. It doesn't get so greasy, because all the grease kind of comes out of it and falls into our catch pan. He bakes it on a rack, so that's his job. I'll cut the tomatoes and I will cut the lettuce up, but he gets to do the bacon. Okay, now we're going to do our little sailboat here that we're going to punch out, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to do this sailboat, and we're going to do that in the Tahitian Tide. So what I did was I stuck a piece of scrap cardstock into my punch, just like this. Whoops, not just like that, just like this. Okay, and I punched it out. So now that gives me a template that I can stamp in, so I don't have to worry about how it's going to show up in the punch, because you do want to try to punch it all at one time, and you are working with different colors. I'm going to turn that over. So we're going to start with our big sail, and that's going to be done in Tahitian Tide, first generation. And it's going to go right inside that, and I've just got these two pieces, my white cardstock that they're going to get stamped on and punched, and my stencil taped together with a piece of Scotch tape. Make sure that you're going to put your stamp the right direction, not upside down.
Move it up a little bit.
Glasses on. And I'm moving some ink out of the way so that I can move this up to show you.
There you go.
Hopefully my head won't get in the way. And for some reason, I don't know if you all have noticed that. How many of you got the Tahitian Tide ink pad? Not the spots that I made, but the ink pad themselves. I'm having difficulty, and I might have to call Stampin' Up. I'm not sure if it's a film on my stamp,
but it only does it with,
or the Tahitian Tide ink, because it really only seems to do it with the Tahitian Tide where it bubbles up, and I'm not sure why. So let's see. Am I staying in camera and my head's not there? So I'm going to line this up in my stencil. And it might be better if you took a piece of dark paper and punched it out of, so that you could actually see the lines. But see how that's got those little bubbles in it? And it shouldn't have. And it's not got my definite lines in it. So I don't know.
let me take some more ink off of it again.
But we're going to de-ink this, and I'm going to move my stencil. We may have it too juicy, I don't know. And I'm going to take and rub my stamp on my pants, hoping all the ink is off of them, because they're khaki colored pants. Can you believe that? Tahitian Tide sailboat on my pants. No, not really. Alright, it did pick up fuzz, so now we're going to clean it with our chamois. When things work properly, things don't take very long. When they don't work properly, that's when we have to figure it out. So my assistant is scraping some of the Tahitian Tide off of the ink pad. It may be that it's just too juicy. Yeah, I think sometimes if your pad is too juicy, then it bubbles up. I call it bubbling up on your, now let me just make sure that if I put this on this direction, that it will stamp. As I put this in here like this. Yeah, that's what my assistant is doing right now, is scraping the excess ink off to the sides. I'm not going to waste that piece of tape. So you might want to mark your template, which side you need to be having it on. Like the sailboat, the boat part needs to be over to the left, because then it matches and it lines up to the punch. Okay, let me give that a try and see what happens. I think that's going to be much better. Let's just try that on there. Oh yes, it was too juicy because she scraped quite a bit off, and she even scraped it when she did the example. But this is turning out. This is giving me those definition lines. So here we go again. So we're going to line this up in that stencil. It bubbled a little bit, but not as bad. I can live with that. That's okay. And we're going to take the smaller of our, and you might even want to, you could take and even put your stamp down inside that stencil and then pick it up to do your stamping. Either way works, but it does give you, let me stand up so that I can come down from the top on it. And this one I can see has a few more bubbles in it, so, but it's okay. It's a sailboat, and so it will look just fine. It's when it's all bubbly, like my first try, that I didn't like it. All right, now our boat part. So I'm done with the, no, I'm not. That has to go on the inside. Crumb cake. Whoops, don't mess up my stencil. That's why I had it taped, so that it would be good. I moved it. Let's hope I get it lined up right. Just when you think you got everything working out perfectly, something doesn't work out so perfect. Let's stand up and see. I got a little, where that little corner just picks up ink on it, like, okay. Now we're going to line this one up. And I'm lining up the boat piece first, and then my little stick. And it does take a little patience to get this lined up, but the effect of it is really cool. So now we're going to take and remove my stencil, cover my ink before we have a catastrophe, clean the stamp, and now it should fit in our punch just perfect. We can line up our sail. We can line up our boat. And we have all three of our pieces ready to adhere together for our boat that's going to get popped up. Okay. And I would suggest using just a very fine tip glue, like one of the precision point glues that I have.
What are you gluing? It's popped up.
Oh, it's popped up. You didn't glue them together first. Okay, my bad. Here's my card.
I had to cut my hot dogs.
Okay, and we're going to adhere this to our card base first. I can't believe I got that red, but we're going to make sure that that gets covered up with our, so this piece gets adhered down, because then we're going to take that piece that has the layering diorama die on it, and we're going to pop up that piece so that it gives it some dimension. So remember, this one is cut at 3 3/4 by 5, so you're going to have a wider border, because now this piece is going to get popped up. Okay. What did I do with my black ones? Here they are. Alright. And you want to make sure that you use enough dimensionals that when this does go through the mail, it doesn't sag. So I'm going to make sure that I put one in every corner. I'll remove this mat. And if you're strategic, and you want to make sure that you've got them on the inside rim as well. Okay, so my husband has just now put the dogs in charge of letting him know when the baking's done. They would just as soon eat it than tell him when it's done. Okay, I'm going to come in with these narrow areas, and I'm going to put in some of our mini dimensionals, just to make sure that it's really going to keep it good. So I did not mark these, so hopefully I can tell which ones well, of course I can. They're white and the dimensionals are black. Silly me, it's not like the white ones. Do you ever get to where sometimes you think and say something before you really think? Because I'm feeling like I do that a lot today. This whole week. Good aspects, bad aspects of the week. It's been one of those weeks. Alright. Yes, Cindy, it is just kind of adding some texture. So you want to make sure that you're covering up your white piece and getting that as straight as possible with those dimensionals. There we go. And now we need to have some of our scrap dimensionals, because we need to have very thin dimensionals for our sailboat. So I have my sticky scissors here that I use to cut with. And I'm going to cut off just a strip, and I'm going to stick it down to that mass. Pretty good guess on what thickness I needed. Now the rest of them I think I can do with the minis. Nope. Still a little bit too wide, so let's get some more of that scrap. And don't throw away your scraps from your dimensionals, the outside parts of them, because it makes it really good for these kind of things to use those. Now I know I need a little piece. narrow piece on the top of this one, so we're going to use this one here. Perfect. See, these little scraps are just perfect to kind of cut the size you need. I'm going to try to get one. Oops, where did it go? Oh, it stuck to my finger. They're so tiny. I want to put it right here on that tip of that sail so that it pops up and it doesn't fall down. A mini will fit right there in the center of that. So that one's good. Now our other sail needs to have another thin one. Up there. And regular minis will fit. I get too much stuff on my desk and I can't work to keep shoving things out of the way. Someday I will do a video of my room so that you all understand that I don't have much room.
Okay, I clean it first.
But I have to clean it first. And that's just not high on priority list right now. Having fun is more important, and that means stamping. Before I put my sailboat on there, since it's going to be popped up, I'm going to take my little birds that come in that set, and I'm going to stamp those in Starry Sky. And I want to make sure that I have them going in the right direction. So the little V's are at the top. And I'm using first generation on this, and I'm going to stamp them towards the top, just like that. So now we have our birds, seagulls. There's a little bit of ink on that. Now let's build our sailboat. I want to tell y'all a story. When I first got married to Chuck 19 years ago, he was into wanting to build a boat, which was all fine and dandy with me. However, we'd only been married a few weeks, and I may have told you this story before, I don't know. We had a pact that he wouldn't spend any more than $100. Neither one of us would spend more than $100 on something without talking to the other one. And he joined my checking account because he didn't have one at the time. And I was at work one day and I seen this charge. I don't even remember how much it was, but it was an unusually amount, a high amount. And I thought, well, I can't believe he's taken money out of my account. So, you know how women think sometimes. First it's like, okay, he's just taking him for a ride. He wasn't really. He had ordered from over in England, he had ordered a set of plans for a boat. Guess where those boat plans are? Still on the file cabinet. Not made at all. Okay, so here is our small sail. I want to make sure that my pieces, oh, that's got something stuck to it. Maybe in his retirement. I don't know. I might make him do it in his retirement. I'm going to stick that right there to where that joins that. Other one. I'm not sure what time it's getting to be.
54.
Oh, I've already gone almost an hour, ladies, and I apologize. Alright, and this one's going to go right over here. At the top. Just like that. And now our Faith Over Fear is going to get stuck up here in the corner. Glued on. Adhered with our Stampin' Seal. And just for good measures, because that is popped up, I'm going to stick a dimensional underneath that so that it holds it in place if it gets off my finger. I have to turn my fan on in my room. Usually my room is very warm or very cool. This afternoon it's not. It's quite warm. So there we have our second card, and then we are going to take our inside piece and real quick we are going to stamp our sailboat.
That's stamped off like.
So we're gonna stamp off. We're gonna make it a really light stamp. Well, I'm gonna use my silicone mat for my. Because I find sometimes the silicone mat will give me enough of that. It's 1, 2. We're going to do this one down here at the bottom. That stamp and I are not seeing eye to eye. Because I am not pressing very hard at all, and that is just picking up. It's not picking up where I want it to pick up, but it certainly is picking up where I don't. There's 1. I think I need to do it at number 2, because 3 was too wide.
That's the blue that was for.
There's our sailboat. Still has that halo. Bums me out. Well, at least you all know that I make halos too. I don't think I have another piece cut. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't have mine. Yeah, I do. But I will cut another one. But let me show you how we finish this off so that yours doesn't have a halo on it, because I like to at least give you guys ones that are perfect. So I'll show you how I'm finishing this off, and then I will stamp another one for you guys. So that's once, twice, 3 times, and now this one is going to go on here at number 4, just so that it's light. There we go. It's a little bit darker there, but the sun is shining there. And now we're going to do the other side, because I have one more card to make with you today. And it's a Christmas card. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, that will go on the inside of your card. And I will fix that, ladies, so that it's perfect for you guys, because I'll use that in a card of mine. Blue ink on my... Alright, let me clean up some of this mess here. Oh, fantastic, Cindy. That's going to make it so much easier for you to stamp and see what you're doing. That's exciting. I am really excited about that for you. It's only been a year I know of. Alright. What a mess Sue has on her desk today. Because our next card, there are several things that I want to show you with it, because it is the hybrid embossing folder, and you can die cut with it. So there's several things that I do want to show you with it. And I can't remember how many of you got it last year, because it was in last year's mini catalog, and then they carried it over to this year's mini catalog. And I'm really excited because it was one of my favorite stamp sets. Whoops, as I drop everything. Get rid of that. Okay, so I did some examples this morning. I cut some things out so that you could see what I was actually talking about, step by step. So this is just using the embossing folder. Okay? And this is a regular size card mat, 4 by 5 1/4. And then you just line that up with the line at the bottom of the die or the embossing folder. And this is a 3D, so you would use the number 1 and the number 4 plate to run it through. Okay, so that is just using it as a regular mat with the little dots and the decorative stuff on it. The second way you can do this is you can emboss it and then take this die. So here I've got it embossed. Then I took this die and you kind of, it's easier when it's a full sheet. You make it fit. You kind of have to turn it around a little bit to see how it actually goes. I know it fits because I did it. There we go. All right. And it will fit right in the cutting plate. All right. So that gives you this. So you would start with a piece like this, and then you would just use the big cutout and die cut this shape. So that's the second way that you can use that die and embossing folder. The third way that you can use it is you emboss it. So you would put it in your embossing folder and you would emboss it. Then you take, see, this is what I'm talking about. You would take your die. So we have this in our embossing folder. Which direction am I going here? Going this way. I want to make sure that I've got it matching up. I'm going to tell you, it is very confusing, but once you remember, and I've mowed grass since then, so that's my excuse. I fried my brain. Here we go. This is the way it's set up. If you put it back in your embossing folder the way you're supposed to, which is the design up to where the line is, then you take your die and you fit it over your embossed piece. And like I said, you just kind of have to match it up. And sometimes it's good to match it up at the bottom because it will stick in. I know it will because I did it. Does it make you angry whenever you do something and then you can't remember what in the world you've done and how you've done it and you thought you had it all planned out? It does me. Maybe it's this one I want. Okay. This one here fits in it. This one cuts it out when you've got it, once you've got it die or cut. Okay, I know, Cherie. I really like this. Like I said, I forget and then I get confused on how I have to place it to get it to what I want it to do. And it's not that hard, really. It's really not that hard because this piece here fits right in there. So I have to have my piece of paper like this. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Because when you have it like that, then it also fits in that back sheet. So it kind of goes in here and you can feel when it pops into place. It's like it wants to pop in upside down, but then it doesn't cut my paper. And I know it cuts my paper. Anyway, I'm going to finish this card today. And I am going to do nothing but a tutorial on how to do this die, because I know it works because I did it this morning. And that was at 4 o'clock. So anyway, what you end up with then, once you've die cut it, is this, where it's all open. So you've got 3 different ways you can use this die set. And that's going to make me mad. I'm just putting it aside. And like I said, I will do a short little video on how to do that to make it more clear. Okay, so this is number 1, where you can emboss it. This is number 2, you emboss it, and then you would cut out that embossed piece with this die here. So you would have this left. It is in the mini catalog, Cherie, and I believe it's on page 23 or 63. There's a 3 in it, I believe. I have it marked in my catalog. So that's how that die, 23, on page 23 is the Merriest Moments. Okay, we're going to use this today, but I also wanted to show you, I know last week I was kind of telling you how I was going to be doing my dies. Well, because this has so many dies to it that also match the stamps, I put all of my stamps on my Stamparatus after I cut my dies out, and I laid them down on my cheap white cardstock, and I mean cheap. Then I stamped all of them at one time with my Stamparatus. I did, however, lose one little stamp, and I don't know where, and I don't know when. But it's the little stamp that gives me the little dots on the inside of the flowers. It's no big deal because I can make little dots myself. But I looked all over my room today, and that is the only stamp that, and I am missing it. And it's like, I have no idea what happened to it. Okay. So it's this one right there. Okay. So this one I didn't stamp, and none of the greetings did I stamp because they don't have dies to match that. However, it does have a die for the inside frame. So that's kind of cool if you wanted to do a frame that would fit inside, then it does cut out a rectangle. So that's the other die that goes with the set. Okay, so we're going to set this aside because we are going to use that. Now I want to give you another hint. And I don't know, sometimes I have issues with when I'm scoring, using my trimmer to score with. Sometimes it's like a fraction, and I mean a fraction of an inch off whenever I fold it over. So I picked up this little idea from Kylie Bertucci. She just cuts her cardstock, and from her trimmer then, she places it down in the corner, folds it over, uses her bone folder to make it good and crisp, and it's not got that 1/8 of an inch off. So I really like that tip. Even with my scoreboard, I was finding that I would have just, and for some people it's not a big deal, but when I'm cutting card kits for people, I like to have them very precise. I also found that this lays my cards flatter. I don't know why, but it does. This is Mary Merlot that we're using today, and this is the card we're making. Very simple, basic card for Christmas. Get my stamps here, because all we're going to do is we are using this piece here. Make sure that all my little bits are punched out. That's where that little foam sheet and your wheel. I don't have the new one that attaches to my take your pick tool. I have the old one simply because I'm too cheap to buy the new one. So we're going to stamp on our mat because we want it to be a nice crisp image. And we're going to stamp in Mary Merlot. And I like Mary Merlot. I don't use it a lot, but I really thought that it was pretty for a Christmas card. Now, I kind of messed up this one because what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that that little cutoff, because it automatically cuts it off when you die cut it, was attached to the bottom so that it looked like it was flush. Well, in so doing, I kind of made my whole thing crooked. So, we're not going to make it crooked this time. What I did do is if they cut it off so that they weren't a sharp, just straight across cut, I kind of took my scissors and I rounded them off a little bit. You probably can't tell in the video, but I rounded that off just a tad bit, just so that it didn't look like it was cut flat across. Okay, so I'm using the Thinking of You this festive season, and I'm going to stamp it in Merry Merlot. Right in the center, as evenly as I can. Give it nice pressure. Here is another way that you could also, if you left it whole before you die cut it, you could put it in your Stamparatus and use your Stamparatus to ink your greeting. Okay. And like I said, ladies, this is a simple card, but you know, sometimes we get really rushed to do Christmas cards, and let's face it, there are some people on our Christmas card list that you want to send them a card, but you don't want to send them a card that's taking you 6 hours to put together. So then I took, and these are the gold holly leaves. And I'm just taking a couple of those, and with a tad bit of glue, I'm going to attach them to the back of my front piece in between the cutouts. That was not the side I wanted to do it on. I wanted to do it on the front side of that leaf so that it sticks to the back. So I'm going to just stick that one right there, just to give it a little bit of gold sticking out. Okay, don't stay there. Come over here to this one. You're not going to stay there either. Boy, I didn't have... you know what I did? I think I did use... We're going to throw that one away. I don't normally throw them away, but that one's got glue sticky all over it. I think I used mini glue dots. Yes, Cindy, this set is very versatile. You could make all your Christmas cards with this one stamp set and die set. I mean, it's that versatile. And there's several more cards. I probably will not demonstrate them, but I am definitely going to make some up to just display on my blog or my Facebook page. So here's one, and I did use the glue dots so that they would stick better. And these come in two different sizes, big ones and small ones. So I'm using two big ones. And then I'm going to use a tiny one over here between these two hollies. Now, if you wanted to add something more to this, you certainly could. You could add some gold sequins. You could add a little bit of ribbon. But like I said, this time I'm centering this, and I'm not trying to get this to reach to the bottom where it would line up with the card base, because like I said, it made it all crooked. So I'm just going to glue all of the back, and then I'm just going to stick a little bit of glue on some of the wider parts of the leaves. because they don't all have to be stuck down, and I think it kind of gives it an effect if they're not all stuck down, but you don't, you do want some of them stuck so that they don't come off when you put them in your envelope. Twirling it around, and then center it out on your card base. Move it over just a tad if we can, so that our leaf doesn't fall off the edge. Give it a press. And there you have it, okay? I did not make an inside for this yet, but I will include a piece of white cardstock for you to put on the inside of your card. Very simple, but I think it looks really elegant. And like I said, you could add sequins to this. If you want me to add sequins. Okay, so let's add a sequin up here. Give that some color up there. Let's add a large sequin down here in the corner of our label, and we'll put another little sequin up here. Oops. And that just dresses it up. So there is our first Christmas card for 2022. Okay, let me put all this stuff away. And this is the adhesive back seasonal sequins that I got those gold ones from. They come in white, red, and green. So there's a lot of versatile ways you can use those. Yes, these gold leaves really do bring out just some, I don't know, elegance to a very simple card. And I don't think that we always have to make cards that are elaborate. Sometimes we can make a simple card and it will turn out very exquisite, depending on the stamps and the dies that you might use and the embellishments that you use. So, okay. So see, even the difference between these two, this one doesn't have the gold sequins, but this one does. And so I'm kind of liking this one better. This one will get the gold sequins. Here is our Faith Over Fear card with our sailboat. And my first card is right here. Brighten my path. So, tell me what your favorite card is today, ladies. While I'm waiting for you to tell me what card you like the best, I want to give you a heads up. Next week on the 14th for 3 on Thursday, it will be videoed and pre-recorded because I'm going to be helping one of my friends pack up and move. It was the only day that I could really help her do that, since I have doctor's appointments and then going out of town the following week on vacation with Audrey and Dorothy. So I told her that I would come on the 14th and help her pack. And I know I won't be back by 3. So it will be pre-recorded. So Cindy likes number 1 best, which was the Campology. And Cherie likes number 3 the best. And I guess maybe it's just you two on yet, because it seems like everybody else has quit talking. So I do appreciate you ladies coming on and chatting with me, watching my videos, giving me your honest opinions, because that's what I like to do. All right, until next week, I will see everybody on the 14th via a pre-recorded video. And then I will see a lot of you on the 15th for Card Club. And then on the 23rd for our wonderful Christmas card in July class. So, have a great weekend, ladies. Stay safe. Do not get overheated. Drink lots of water. Stay hydrated. And Cindy, don't work out in that garden too much. Okay, bye, ladies.